Thanks for joining us this morning for an exciting announcement about where we're headed as a community with our sustainability and climate action efforts in the city of Sioux Falls. I kind of wanted to kick off this topic today by sharing with you, and I'm not going to read these. This is a stack of letters I got recently from a bunch of kids at Roosevelt. And all these letters have to do with different climate initiatives that these kids want to see us tackling as a city. And I will say probably at least every month I get letters like this from kids, from second graders up to high schoolers. And a lot of times their number one concern that they're worried about is climate initiatives and climate change. And so what we're going to talk about today is obviously very important to our environment, to the sustainability of the resources that we have in Sioux Falls. But as we continue to attract workers and families and keep our young people here in this community, they want to know that they're living in a community that cares about their environment, that's focused on the resources that we have and sustaining those and preserving those. And so that's why today is important as well. So we as a city, we've been very forward thinking with our approach to strategic planning. People talk about how well planned this community is, and this is a very well planned city. It's been planned for many, many decades, just very smart growth. Well, now we're looking at doing that more through a lens of sustainability and through climate-focused initiatives like this. We had a sustainability plan that we created more than a decade ago, and the world has changed a lot, even in the last decade. One of my mayoral friends that I've gotten to know well is Mayor Francis Suarez in Miami. In Miami, 4 months ago, hired their first chief heat officer. Literally, that's the person's title. That person's goal is focused on climate sustainability initiatives, but mostly centered around the rising temperatures in Miami. I know Phoenix has a chief heat officer as well, and what the heat is doing to water levels, what it's doing to pavement conditions, what it's doing to heating and cooling challenges. But we in Sioux Falls have been doing our own unique climate initiatives for many, many years. I mean, Dustin Hanson is here, who was at our landfill for many years, and one of the projects I always like to talk about is our Landfill Gas Project, where we take the methane gas from our landfill, pipe that to Chancellor, and we help run the Poet ethanol plant off the methane gas that we pull out of our landfill. So we've been doing projects like that, but we haven't talked about them enough. And so this plan that we're going to roll out today is the first ever, what I would consider real comprehensive climate and sustainability action plan for the city of Sioux Falls. This plan will really position Sioux Falls as a leader in this region on climate and sustainability efforts. A lot of times as Sioux Falls goes, so does the rest of the region with some of these efforts. So we feel a responsibility to model the way for this region, for the state, for even the upper Midwest on what we're doing with climate and sustainability efforts. We have had roughly 18 months of community engagement that has gotten us to this point with this plan you're going to hear about today. There's been a lot of public input. There's been a lot of research done. There's been a ton of work by the lady who I'm going to introduce in a few minutes to my left here to put this plan together. So this plan prioritizes a few main things for us. One is clean transportation. I mean, a lot of times when you talk about sustainability and climate action, transportation, EVs, emissions is a big part of that. We as a city of Sioux Falls, we have a huge, huge vehicle fleet. If you think of all of our police cars, all of our fire engines, all of the fleet vehicles that we have with streets, all of our parks vehicles, our health department has vehicles. We are a huge, huge emitter of emissions into the environment. And so even this year alone, we started adding EVs to our fleet in order to start transitioning the way that we're treating our fleet here in the city of Sioux Falls. Protecting our water resources has always been very important in the city of Sioux Falls. We talk about the Big Sioux River a lot as being one of the best assets in this community. Think what this community would be without the Big Sioux River running through it. We have hundreds of millions of dollars being invested right now in our downtown just to be near that asset, just to be near that river. And so ensuring that we're caring for that river is very, very important. And so we've been doing Big Sioux Watershed Summit meetings for many, many years, but we're going to look at enhancing that to more climate-focused initiatives, which will include water and all the other things as we go forward in the years ahead. And you know, the other thing that we often talk about too that maybe people don't realize maybe is connected to this is even things like food access and what food access has to do with climate and sustainability in a community. Most recently, I heard about this when I was at the state pen, and there was a Toastmasters club, and I was a guest there, and one of the inmates wanted to talk about more community gardens and access to food through community gardens, not only for the ability to get fresh food in local communities, but also for the community that creates of gardening together. So it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. You know, one of the talking points that I think will come out of today is people want to talk about our carbon emissions and what we're looking to do with that. And you're going to hear more about that from Holly. But we have a goal to reduce our emissions by 45% by 2030 and to be net neutral in those carbon emissions by 2050. So that's a very ambitious goal. And some may say, well, 2050, you know, that's 30, what am I doing my math, 38 years away, 28 years away, excuse me. It's a long ways out. But that work will start today. That work it has started already, and that work will continue. We've never been bold enough to put a flag in the sand and say, this is what we're shooting for. Now we've done that. Now we know how we can work backward from that goal to be carbon neutral by 2050 here in the city of Sioux Falls. Some other benefits of this plan is that it will also focus on equity. And I think what people maybe don't often realize as well is that the health risks and impacts of climate change often disproportionately affect some of our vulnerable populations. And so that's an important part of a plan like this. And also, we want to ensure that the community is engaged in this as well. So as we go forward with a plan like this, there's going to be a lot of calls to action where we're going to ask the community to get involved. We're going to ask people to maybe do things they haven't historically had to do. I'll give you a very small example before I close it up, and then I'm going to turn over to Holly to get in the guts of the plan. Recently, we passed an ordinance that would require our trash haulers, or that would require, our residents to bring their trash cans to the end of their driveway. Okay? Instead of having them up at the house, people would have to come and bring them to the end of the driveway. Well, the number of emissions that will reduce alone from the trucks that have to sit there and idle during that trash collection process, that's a very small ask of a resident, but the impact that can have on the emissions that those big trash collection trucks emit into our environment is very substantial. But that wasn't without controversy. It wasn't without controversy for a lot of reasons. And so we're going to have to ask our residents, and you as a community are going to have to get more comfortable with doing things you maybe haven't historically done for the betterment of our environment, for the betterment of our community. So more of that will be coming in the future. Last slide I'll close with here, because I think this does a great job of kind of highlighting what are some of the climate challenges that we have currently, anything from hotter temperatures, food insecurity, landfill waste, flooding, dealt with almost all these in my first term as mayor, to how are we looking at more renewable energy, how are we having more walkable neighborhoods so that we don't have to be as reliant on our vehicles, how are we looking at more green infrastructure. Tree planting is very important given the emerald ash borer and what that's done to our community over the last few years. Including the big thing being waste reduction and recovery, and there's a lot of work being done at our landfill on that as well, and unique things that we're doing at our landfill, not unlike the methane gas example I just shared. So really the architect of this plan is someone who's done an incredible amount of work on this. She's an incredible champion for this. Her name's Holly Meyer, and she's going to walk through this plan a little bit more with you. And so if you would please help me welcome Holly to the podium.
Thank you so much, Mayor. It's a real pleasure and honor to be with you all today. As the Mayor mentioned, this has been a 18-month-long process in close collaboration with the community to get to where we are, so it's very, very exciting. And today I'm going to talk with you about the process of the plan as well as some of the highlights within the plan. And so We worked in close collaboration with the community in two primary ways. The first one was developing a sustainable steering committee made up of a few city staff, but largely community stakeholders. A few of them are in the audience today. Thank you for being here. And those members of the committee represented key constituency groups that have a role in community-wide sustainability. They were really integral to bring in their expertise from their sectors because we are not experts in everything, so it was really imperative we had their voices at the table everywhere, or stakeholders from education, local business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, energy sector, a whole host of sectors, and that was really helpful in the development of the plan, so thank you to that committee. The second way we collaborated with the community is through our public engagement phases. So throughout this 18-month-long process, we have had 3 community engagement phases where we seek feedback from the community. We want to know what people are thinking about on these issues, what are their concerns, what are their needs that need to be integrated into the plan. And so that first community engagement phase happened in April of 2021. It was during COVID, so it was an online survey that we did that full month. We had about 1,300 people respond to that survey, which was really exciting. And from that survey, we learned what people were thinking about. You know, we learned that they want to see food composting food waste composting in our community. They want to see efforts around water quality and conservation. And what was really exciting too is we heard the depth of interest in this topic. We asked in that survey the respondents, you know, do you care about this issue? Are you concerned about sustainability and environmental issues? We asked, are you concerned about environmental hazards like flooding, like droughts in our area? And we also asked if respondents think it's important Sioux Falls addresses this issue, as well as if you think sustainability and environmental issues are impacting your life today and future generations. And as you can see from the data on the screen, we heard a resounding majority of respondents say that these are very important issues to them. They are concerned about the hazards, and yes, they want to see us addressing this. So the big takeaway here, well, we got data that helped form the goals and the strategies of the plan, but it also indicated the support in the community of this work. The second community engagement phase was our open house that we held in October of 2021. We held this for 3 hours at the downtown library on the 21st of October. And again, it was a really successful event. We had about 140 people come to talk with our steering committee members, to speak with city staff about the draft plan thus far, and to engage in person, finally, about these issues. And it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of energy in the room, and again, illustrated the support and the desire for this work in our community. And finally, the third public engagement phase is happening now. So today, the draft Sustainability and Climate Action Plan is released, and we have a public comment period open for 3 weeks. That closes on March 21st. And so we encourage the community to review the plan. That can be accessed at siouxfalls.org/sustainability. Encourage you to download, review the plan, and provide comments. Really want to know if there's anything left out. Really want to know your thoughts on where the plan is at this point, because again, as the mayor mentioned, it will be integral to collaborate with the community on these efforts. Moving to some of the content of the plan. As the mayor mentioned, we had 2 foundational goals that really drove the overarching structure and framework of the plan. The first one is to reduce our greenhouse gases by 45% by 2030 and to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. These targets are really important for our community. They're bold and they are science-based, and it's really important that we work toward those to continue our leadership on sustainability in the region. And then the second one is to prioritize social equity. As the mayor mentioned, vulnerable community members can be disproportionately affected by environmental and sustainability issues. And so as we are implementing the initiatives drawn up in this plan, it's very important that we are making sure all community members have access and receive the benefits of sustainability initiatives. The plan is also organized into 6 focus areas. I'm not going to go too deeply into each of these, but essentially each of these focus areas is a sector for work in the plan. And I think what is really illustrative of this graphic is the breadth of what sustainability and what this plan is covering. It is a really comprehensive plan, and each of these focus areas has specific goals, strategies, and actions that are aimed at addressing the challenges in that area and also bringing forth the many benefits to working on those areas. So for example, community vitality and sustainable living. We have goals around increasing locally produced and accessed food. And of course, food insecurity is an issue our community is dealing with. So not only does that help reduce emissions because of lowering the amount of transport needed for food, but it also helps reduce food insecurity in our community. So there's a lot of initiatives like that in the plan that have a host of benefits incorporated within it. And then finally, priority actions. So the plan has a lot of goals, a lot of strategies within it, but I want to highlight a few of those that will be really key for us to be focusing on this year and in the next coming years. The first one of those is transitioning to clean energy and making our buildings more energy efficient. This is beneficial, again, for a number of reasons. So we know that greenhouse gas emissions come largely from burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas for our energy. So transitioning to clean energy is an important part of lowering our emissions, but it also has substantial health benefits for our community. We reduce the air pollution in our community as we move toward clean transportation and have more clean energy like wind and solar. Energy efficiency is important because, again, reducing emissions, but also having more energy efficient buildings can improve the comfort and the safety and the overall health for residents in those buildings. And then clean transportation, I mentioned very briefly, and the mayor has as well. So, thinking about our transportation now, that is a big component of our overall emissions as a community. And because of that, it's a real wonderful opportunity for us to be addressing that area, to be reducing our emissions, and again, improving public health outcomes. So as we transition to cleaner transportation options, like electric vehicles powered by clean energy, like sustainable biofuels, we have the opportunity to immediately improve the air quality in our community, which has positive health outcomes, and it's really significant. And this also includes increasing ridership on public transit, which our city is currently working on a lot with the SAM On Demand project, as well as supporting and promoting active mobility options like bicycling for transportation and walking. And then finally, the priority action to note is the city organization itself will be working hard to integrate sustainability and the components of this plan into our city policies and processes. We are doing that already in a lot of ways, and as the mayor mentioned, the city has been working on sustainability for over a decade. So we have a really strong foundation to build upon, and there are some ways we can integrate this work into more of our processes, for example, in the budgeting process. So next steps for the plan. I mentioned the public comment is open, public comment period is open right now, March 1st to 21st. I encourage everyone to review the plan and provide public comment. Very interested to hear what our community is thinking about this work and want to make sure that it is community driven and incorporating all our community's voices. We will also be presenting to City Council at their informational meeting today and looking forward to that conversation with that body. And then finally, once we get all of the feedback from the community, we will integrate that, finalize the plan, and release that hopefully this spring, upon which we will move forward with gusto and work with our community partners, private sector, nonprofit sector, individuals, and households to fulfill the work of this plan.